So, as is customary, as Vikash said, it's my duty to, on behalf of the People's Progressive Party, thank you for being here today. I know that many of you are here because of your abiding concerns about what's happening in our country. And many of you are here because of the love that you have for this party that was established by Dr. Jagan, who has led us in good and bad times. A party that has stood by the people of Guyana, and a party that will return to office on March 2nd when the elections come. So comrades, I need to tell you that after 2015, I saw the demoralization among many people, because instinctively the older folks knew that APNU will return to the old PNC route and the old PNC philosophy. That in spite of the talk of change, they've never really changed the nature of that party. A party that does not have a democratic tradition, that sustained itself through rigged elections, a party that believes that you must not work to win people's confidence, but you can bully them into submission, a party that believes in spending and not accumulating. That led us into the problem. Many of our older people thought instinctively when we lost that we will return to those days. And they were not wrong. And many of the young people were yet to learn. They had not lived in that period, so they didn't have enough of an experience of APNU. Now they have that experience. And so many people came to me in 2015 and they said, the People's Progressive Party will never return to office given what is happening. That these people are going to prevent us from being in office because they're going to do all that it takes to stay in power. And I said to them, we have to work at fixing the things that we did not go right. The party needed this period to rebuild itself from the bottom up. We needed a time to get back in touch with our people. We needed to ensure that our messages of progress reach every corner of this country. And if we work together, a day shall come when we will return to office. And that day is some 40 days away from today. We're not going to assure them that we are not going to take 28 years to return to office. We will do it within the 5 years, and we shall, with all your support. So I want to say to all those comrades who were so worried, that rightfully they were worried, but we are watching every single thing. We're not just telling you our messages on the platform, but right now, every single day, we're watching every single one of their moves because we don't trust them. We don't trust them now in what they're trying to do in GCOM, and therefore we're watching to see that we have a clean voters list. And on election day, we will watch them too. And a lot depends on you. Flags don't win elections, but they're important. The big YAF doesn't win elections. Votes win elections. And we have the numbers on our side. The people of Guyana, in our strongholds and even in their strongholds, have seen the decline in the fortunes of our country because of the nature of the People's National Congress and this so-called APNU-AFC coalition. Comrades, therefore, a lot depends on you. Everything depends on you. Your efforts, this party has always depended on you. And so, it's one thing to come to our meetings, and you have to come. Every single one of you must go to Sturtville too, so they can see the strength of the People's Progressive Party. But you have to become the foot soldiers. You have to invest a little bit of your time between now and the elections to make sure that every single person checks their name on the official list of electors when it comes out, the final list, that you are ready to mobilize every single person in your community to go out and vote on that day. Walk down the streets personally. Make sure they come out. Let's come out early in the morning. Form long lines if necessary. Spend 2 or 3 hours there and vote early and get back home. Every single person has to become a campaigner, an activist. I'm counting on you to do that. That is what matters. Because at the end of the day, those votes will be counted at each polling place, and then they will be tabulated, and we're watching carefully the tabulation system too. So I'm here largely to ask you to help, because you already know what they're about, and you know what we're going to do in office. I don't need to make much of a case about that any longer, but just to ask you to ensure that you play a role in this. This is not for a single individual. This is for the future of our country, your children, your future. And what kind of country we want to live in. Look at the assault on our freedom. The assault on our freedom. For years, 25 years, the Constitution of Guyana was observed by the 2 main political parties when, in terms of appointing the chairman of GCOM, every single time that issue came up, we complied with the Constitution. And Granger unilaterally rejected 18 nominees and appointed Justice Patterson there, because not only did they have a pattern for the rigging, they wanted him there in GCOM because he was voting with the 3 commissioners all along, but this guy revealed his undemocratic nature. He was prepared to violate the Constitution of Guyana and 25 years of common history and practice. It just tells you, if he could do that, violate what is so sacred in our Constitution, what would he do when it comes to your rights, the rights of ordinary people of this country? Secondly, we saw the undemocratic nature of Granger revealed when he refused to obey the Constitution once again, but the no confidence vote, and then even defied the ruling of the Premier Court, the Apex Court, the Caribbean Court of Justice, when they said elections had to be held by September. And had it not been for the pressure or protests, and had it not been for the United States of America and the others taking a strong stand, until now we would not have had an election date. This is the nature of the APNU. They have interfered with all the constitutional agencies. You recall in the early days when they wanted to get rid of Carlville Duncan, Granger called him over to his office and said, "Resign. I don't want blood on my carpet." You know Granger's sordid history with rigged elections too. So this is about freedom too in our country. Because if they can do that at that level without any regard, how will they respect any of our rights? And that's what you're fighting for too, to have a place in this country where the rule of law persists. Sometimes we don't think about this. We only think about the bread and butter issues. But freedom is important too, because there was a time when that was snatched away from us for almost 3 decades. And had we not returned freedom to this country in 1992, then the progress we made would have never happened, would have never taken place, because that's an essential condition to move our country forward. So comrades, when you come out on that day, you're voting for a free Guyana in the future, one in which you can raise your children, where your rights will be protected too. Secondly, comrades, you're voting against an economic philosophy that has no future. APNU believes in consumption. This is how it was in the period under Burnham. What happened is the country lived above its means, and then they borrowed. They borrowed to sustain a lifestyle that was above the country's means. So by the time the People's Progressive Party got into office in 1992, the debt alone was 9 times the size of our whole economy. We were using 153% of revenue to pay that debt. All the taxes of Guyana were not enough even to pay debts, much less spend on anything else. And comrades, in that period, we were declared uncreditworthy to borrow even. So what has happened? Do you think they changed that philosophy? From the first day they came into office, they argued we left them a bankrupt economy, but they increased the budget. And every budget they've passed since they got into office is bigger than any budget that the PPP utilized in any of the 23 years in office. When you add the 5 budgets together, it's over 1 trillion, not billion, over $1 trillion that they have spent of our money they have spent, and very little to show for it, because in that same period, almost every sector of the economy declined. Sugar declined, rice declined, bauxite declined, gold mining, forestry, construction, retail trade, everything that produces job and wealth for people declined. And on the other hand, they, rather than increasing welfare declined too, because they removed the help that pensioners got, they removed the children's grant, etc. And so they've spent a lot of money. And my point is that this shameful group of people that's there, how did they finance this? So they increase your taxes by $88 billion more per year. And that is why across Guyana now, money has shrunk from circulation. If you go to the market, people complain. The taxi drivers complain. People who are doing hairdressing complain. People don't have disposable income anymore. Because $88 billion that was in your pockets now per year goes to finance the useless expenditures of this government. And they have borrowed another 900 million US. We're going back to the past with their spending policies. The way they waste money on useless things, a ton of useless things. We have pointed out how just ministerial travel alone across Guyana, local travel, costs us over $1 billion per year more. Just for them to travel around Guyana and do these so-called outreaches, etc. The food in government has gone up by 1.6 billion more per year. That is what they eat. So this is where the money goes. It disappears. And you know what? That is why if you give them 10 billion US dollars of oil money, trust me, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we'll be starving like Venezuelans. That is what's going to be happening. They used to produce 3 million barrels of oil per day and export it. We're going to do 120,000 now. And now they don't have food in Venezuela because of bad policies. Bad policies. And this bunch here will do the same thing. That is why we can't take a chance. We have to get them out on March 2nd when the elections come. So you're not just fighting for freedom, but you're fighting against an economic philosophy and for progress. You're also fighting to ensure that our resources are spent in the right places. So when we want the money, any wealth of the future, to go back to our people, that is why we said the first thing we'd have to start doing is reducing the burden of the taxes that they put in place. They put in place over 200 new taxes and fees. We have to drop these back down so that the farmers can work, the people in the mining sector can start going back to work, etc. For example, in Region 5, the land and water charges moved from $3,500 per acre per year to $15,000, putting the rice farmers there at risk. How are they going to make any money if you keep those taxes? We said we'll reverse those. We'll ensure that they get back their pesticides and fertilizer tax-free. Their tractors and combines and stuff must go back to tax-free so they can go back to work and feed their families. The same thing with people in mining. They increase the taxes on excavators, increase the tributers tax, increase a whole range of other taxes. We have to reduce those back so that people can work in their sectors. We have to remove the taxes on people's welfare. The cost of living is just too high. And therefore, we said we'll reverse, because these sectors never had taxes before. Now they have taxes on water, on electricity, on medicine. Imagine these people put a VAT on medicine, on foodstuff, 46 food items, baby diapers, data, a whole range of stuff. We have to remove all these taxes back when we get into office so that people can have a lower cost of living and that they can go back to work in the productive sectors. That is what you are voting for on March 2nd. You're voting to ensure that we spend more on education. So we made it clear that we are going to make university education free, and that 20,000 online scholarships must be given to people across this country, right across Ghana. Not only people in one region, but all the regions of Ghana, all of our people. But we want to help even at the lower levels. So the $50,000 grant per child will help. And then more nutrition program there. But it's not just in public education that we want to make improvements for teachers and everybody else. We want those who do private education too, that the cost, it becomes affordable to people. Because some people want to send their kids to private school. So guess what we have done? We have decided that we are going to make every private education institution, they don't have to pay taxes. So from nursery to university, if you set up a nursery school or a university in Ghana, you don't have to pay the corporate tax, and that would allow the private institutions to also lower fees for people. So it's a comprehensive plan for the development. The same thing in healthcare. They're spending so much more money on the drugs purchases, but Harman's friends and the others and Valda Lawrence's friends can walk in and can get these contracts. They don't go through any bidding process anymore. And therefore, if you're buying, you're spending more money, but you're paying 4 times the price for the drugs, then you will have just a quarter of what you had before. And that's why all across the country, shortages, etc. We can't find basic drugs, Panadol, etc., insulin in the hospitals. But guess what they did? They have a medical plan for the cabinet where they send their families to Ireland, etc., what we are paying for, costing us $600 million. Ministers under the PPP never had that medical plan, nor the president, but they put that in for themselves, whilst healthcare is deteriorating across the country. We have to fix that. The doctors, we trained over 1,000 of them. We put them across the country. Several of them left because this cabal decided that they wanted them to go on the establishment rather than keep them as contract gratuity workers so they can get a little bit more money. We will reverse that so that more people can work in the public health sector. We have to train more doctors, get more specialists in the system. Not only for doctors though, but for all those who were experiencing contract gratuity. We need to make sure they kill the specialty hospital. Specialized care is important. If our people have a heart surgery or they need a complex operation, they must get it done in Guyana. That hospital that we were going to build that they killed when they had the majority in Parliament. And don't let anybody fool you that they're in office for only 5 years, because they had 3 years from 2012 to 2015 where they blocked almost every initiative because of the one seat majority they had in the Parliament. So they had really 8 years of negative policies on our country. They blocked that hospital. A person would have gotten a heart surgery at that hospital for less than $5,000. We used to give patients who were going abroad $5,000 as a help because it cost about 30,000 overseas US dollars. And they could have gotten a surgery here from the help that the government had given. They killed that too. Nothing, replaced it with nothing except in Valda Lawrence, this useless Valda Lawrence and the others. On the other hand, they gave a contract, you know the bond. They took one of their cronies, no bidding. They called him in, give him 25 million Ghana dollars. He took the 25 million, went down to South Georgetown, bought a building, and then they turned around and rented the building from him at $12.5 million a month, a little house. And he was getting in a year in rent. They were storing just a few things, condoms, Irfan said, I think. Because he had to visit from Parliament when we made the issue. They said, no, they had drugs there. And Irfan had to go there to visit because he was one of our spokespersons. They found nothing else in the bond. But what happened is that, guess how much one man was getting in rental? He was getting twice the amount of money they were spending in Region 4 for capital works on public health. So Region 4 is the biggest region in terms of numbers of people, and they were spending half on public health for capital works than one man was getting for renting a house to them. This, it tells you about the magnitude of the corruption there and why healthcare has deteriorated. If you assault the doctors and the public health officials, you don't buy drugs, you're not planning for the future, then that will happen. And it's a result of bad policies, and we intend to fix that too. So there are lots of things you're voting for. We made it clear we want to get every old age pension up from $20,000 or so now to $40,000 a month. All the old age pension. So that they too can spend. We're going to return the free water to pensioners. We made that clear too. These are specific things. We said all of the used cars that they banned, the 8 years restriction, immediately that caused the price of vehicles to go up by over $1 million. We'll reverse that. The ban on used tires so that poor people can afford to drive too. These are important things, very, very specific things. If you listen to Granger is what do I say about Granger? He's a total waste of time. And a crybaby. He's a crybaby. Oh, look, they're criticizing me all the time. A crybaby. Every time we say something about him, his people said, why are they criticizing the old man? Well, we're not criticizing him because he's old. We're criticizing him because he's the executive president of Guyana, not a ceremonial president like some countries. He chairs the cabinet. He's responsible for their failures, the lack of proper policies, and he doesn't want to account for his policies. That is why every meeting that they go to, they can't speak about their track record, so they're cussing Irfan Ali or Jagdeo. Irfan belly too big, Jagdeo head too big, whatever. But Irfan is more active than the whole cabinet combined together. And he's smarter than all of them too. And I can't do nothing about my big head. So I can't reduce it. So, yeah, I might try to grow back some hair on it because it's hard times now. I even have to shave it. So comrades, that is it. You know, they can't say a single thing. What are they going to go and tell the pensioners after promising them the good life? That they increase their pension by $3,000, but then put all the hardship taxes on stuff that pensioners use, medicine, remove their water subsidy, etc. What are they going to tell the university students? Again, crybaby Granger, Leslie Ramsamy wrote a letter saying that he promised free education the last time at UG, but the fees went up by 35%. He's now saying, oh, I'm not in control of the University of Guyana. He's the president of Guyana. If I'm a president of Guyana, I'll make it not happen. That is what you need, that kind of leadership. If you make a promise, you fulfill it. And that is why every single promise that we make in our manifesto, we're going to ensure that we comply and we keep the promises that are made. That is why the People's Progressive Party over the years have done well in office. Not because Indo-Guyanese vote for us overwhelmingly, and we're grateful for that. We're not ashamed of that. Amerindians vote overwhelmingly for us, and we're grateful for that, but because of our record. And now today, I'm sure, because of what has happened in many areas that supported APNU, like in the mining sector, etc., come March 2nd, many people who voted against us will vote for the People's Progressive Party now. People of every race, every religion. Our party is inclusive of everyone. That is why we're strong. That is why we don't have to do whisper campaigns and try to stir up racism like they're doing. Every single speech, listen to their speeches. It's all about criticizing the PPP. Imagine a government that had been in office in 5 years should be talking about itself and the future. But they're criticizing the PPP, and then they're trying to stir up racism all the time. But we will fight this openly, because racism has no place in this country. Has absolutely no place in this country. So comrades, these are very, very important elections. So as I said before, they cannot go back to the electorate in anything believable. Imagine they're running a couple ads now. Their ads are talking about local government elections. How one UG student said, oh, the first time I can do a local, I'm a councillor. They're not even ashamed. Local government last year, we trashed them by 50,000 votes. I'd be ashamed to run an ad like that. I'd be ashamed totally. When I get beaten so badly at the local government elections in November last year. Right across the country. They used to win Letem. We won Letem. We won Mabaruma in their stronghold. We increased our votes in Bartica. In Georgetown, we moved from 2 seats to 7 seats in the city council. They're not, forget the PPP stronghold. Forget the PPP stronghold. A whole NDC would vote and they'll get a couple of votes. Nagamutu even had to rig to get people on the list in whim. People crying all the time because they say, how am I a candidate in this AFC party? I don't support them. But they forged the people's signature. People like Nagas and his family forged the people's signature and put them there. But you couldn't get taken off the list because they discovered only after the statutory period had expired. This is the deceit that they have. He goes again to his community, people like Nagas and stuff there. I said to you, when they pass by you, I've been saying to the nation, you have to have a bucket to pick up slime. So much slime oozes out of people like them because they're slime balls, you know, rolling around the place, just useless bunch. Imagine Keith Scott, who said to Amerindians in the parliament, he said Amerindians are greedy people, not a word of condemnation. Imagine one minister in the parliament saying that about Amerindian people. And he said Amerindians can't get no oil and gas money if they get more land. That should have been condemned openly by this government. But who is Keith Scott? Keith Scott is a one-man party, useless too. And a lot of small parties are formed now. Well, I heard Vishnu Bandhu too was there. But now he's smart. He wants to keep both the dual citizenship and he wants to get the sweet hair. But a lot of these small parties, they're saying, look at a Keith Scott. If he could get one member in the whole country, one vote, and become a minister, this thing is a good thing. Let me form a party too. So next elections, we got about 300 parties. Everybody won. But remember, the PPP is one party with civic people. And they can produce 100 of these others. We're going to still beat them badly in March 2nd. All of them. Because, you know why? Because we are clear about where we want to take this country. We're clear about what we want to do in the oil and gas sector. Have you seen what Winston Jordan said about the oil and gas sector? This is the Minister of Finance a couple of weeks ago on an interview in a radio station said, I don't know how we come up with a signing bonus of 18 million. Imagine this is a crucial negotiation, a crucial contract that will determine the wealth of this country for the future. He doesn't know. And then at the end, he said he thought it was a gift to them. So that's why they hit it. Tried to steal the first $18 million. This is what we have. They can't take a strong position to defend the country because they're compromised and incompetent. compromised and incompetent. Trust me, from day one, we would look out for Guyanese, all Guyanese, in those contracts and those negotiations. We're going to make sure that the oil money works for Guyanese too. Not as the foreigners now, everybody, when they should be happy with this resource, are worried because of the bad deals they have done. But we have to fix it. And only one party can stand up, has the competence to do so, has the track record to do so, and that's the People's Progressive Party. Comrades, the 50,000 jobs, we have to get people back to work. Look at Wales, unconscionable. They just closed it. And it's not just the closure, it's the deceit of this guy Granger. Totally deceitful. So he said on the campaign trail, they promised people to expand sugar, pay 20% salary to the workers. After the elections, he said, I can't decide how we'll go. I have a commission of inquiry. He put together 11 persons on this commission of inquiry. They came back with a report to him, his own people that he handpicked. They spent over 70 million Ghana dollars on this commission of inquiry. They came back and said, no closure of any estates. His own commission of inquiry said that. A couple of weeks later, he decided to close Wales. And then they blame it on the PPP. PPP had intended to close this. This is a total lie. But if a man can't respect his own commission of inquiry, and you know why they've done that? They decided that these people probably support the People's Progressive Party. Because we're spending less in subsidy, we were spending less in subsidy than sugar in its multifaceted way was contributing to the country. Through taxes, through NIS, sustaining NIS, through the foreign exchange regime, through local eco activities in the area, support of jobs, etc. And the drainage and irrigation. Look, after they closed the sugar industry, they came, we were spending $5 billion in subsidies. They came for $2 billion for drainage and irrigation because the Gaisuko was taking care of those drains. So when you net out all of these things, it would have been wiser to keep sugar going and keep not the 7,000 people working, but the 11,000, those who depended on sugar too for a job. 11,000 Guyanese working. But they had to go on the breadline only in the sugar belt. 11,000 people. Just imagine 4 persons per family. That's over 40,000 people have moved from having a job, feeding their family, sending their kids to school, to the breadline. And that's only in sugar. That's only in sugar. In the same thing happened in the mining sector. 20,000 jobs, people went out of work there. So when we say, instead of creating jobs, Granger lost 30,000 jobs, we're conservative with a 30,000 estimate. More than 30,000 people lost jobs. And when you think about that, how many people they have to feed, that's nearly 150,000 people in a population of 800,000 that they have moved back into hunger. People don't have food to eat. I've seen this. Come to the office from their support areas too. Not just in PPP strongholds, but everywhere in the country. People have gone back into hunger. And those people are waiting for them on March 2nd. They're waiting for them. That's their turn to do the payback. Because then we make sure that they lose their jobs and all the fancy perks that they're getting. $3 million per minister now. 27 of them we have to fetch them on our shoulders. 27 useless people on our shoulders. Well, we're going to take away their jobs. And we're not just going to take away their jobs. And sure, we're going to investigate some of them because they have a lot more to pay back for to the people of this country. Some of them have stolen with impunity. They used to say the PPP was corrupt, that 28 to 35 billion dollars a year was being spent, was stolen through procurement fraud. They've had 5 years of investigations. They can't charge a single individual for having money in an account that they shouldn't have from our side. Not a single person has been charged for having money that they shouldn't have. On the other hand, Granger has not in 5 years declared his statements to the Integrity Commission. 23 ministers this year. You know what? If you don't make that declaration, you can go to jail for 1 year. I know they're expanding the prison. Trust me, every single person got to declare. From the year 2000 when it started, we have declared every single year as president, and then until 2014. We have declared how much you earn and what you own. So if there's a difference, you can check it. That is what, when they talk about clean government. Imagine he puts up this sign and talk about honesty and decency. Well, honestly, they're stealing a lot. That is the only honesty in the whole slogan. They're honestly stealing a lot of money. So comrades, they're every single area. They got one called Sticky Finger Patterson. He walks around the place, things just pop up and stick to his fingers anywhere. Comes in, you got to hold your pocket. Anywhere he walks, comes on the West Coast. And he talks about roads. They said, oh, the PPP complaining, and they're driving on nice smooth road going to their meetings. Well, the West Coast Road was started under the PPP. The East Bank Road, the same thing. The East Coast Road, we left that too. The only road he say he built is the road from Linden to Lethem. He put up a picture. There's no such road. But you can't blame him for strong sight. You know what I mean? So the thing is that if you spend $1.1 trillion of our money, if you borrow $900 million, if you take $88 billion a year more in taxes, how can we praise you for spending $2 million on fixing the sea defenses? You should have done those things because you left us with more debts, you left us with more taxes, you're collecting more taxes. So they want us to praise them for the couple of things that they did. But really, we should have gotten much, much more from the amount of money that they spent had we not had such a profligate government, a wasteful government, a government that believes in extravagance. So they will pay a foreign artist like Shabi to come here and spend $50 million. $50 million to come and perform at one of their concerts, taxpayers' money, when they wouldn't have even money or drugs in some of the hospitals in Region 9 when you go there. And they don't have anything. And those people live far from the nearest pharmacy. Even if they have a little money, they can't get the drugs. But it shows you their priority. They're spending over $300 million to celebrate a Republic Day. But there's nothing wrong celebrating Republic Day, but their money is going to their cronies. They're using it for campaigning purposes. They're inflating contracts. All the buses you see taking people to their meetings, they got a permanent caravan now because they're not getting crowds, so they're fetching the same people. But that's coming out from the budget for Republic Day celebration, and we're paying for it. When you see all those buses passing by, you're paying for it, the taxpayers of the country. That's what they're good at. Granger wants to build arches, he wants fancy vehicles, a whole range of fancy vehicles, a whole ton of them. And they used to talk about extravagance under the PPP. Well, let me tell you, 4 PPP presidents and Mr. Hoyt used one vehicle, a Toyota Crown, for 12 years. Janet Jagan, Chetty Jagan, Sam Hines, and I use it for the first 3 years that Desmond Hoyt used to use. 12 years we used the same vehicle. Since they got into office, they bought 4 Toyota Crowns, 4 Land Cruisers, a couple of Lexuses, and a whole range of stuff for Granger. 44 new vehicles for his office alone. Over 600 million spent on that. It just gives you an idea of where our money is going. They like ceremonies. They like a lot of ceremonies, big fetting and all of that. But when you talk to the black rice farmer in Region 5, who they took away lands from and gave to their cronies, those are people who voted for them. But they can't get any help. Guess where they came to? Our office. We filed a case and they got back their land and they're voting PPP this time because that's what we're about. Or the vendors that they throw off the street. Suddenly they love Afro-Guyanese. But all the years of neglect, when the last 4.5 years, ordinary people who campaign with them, young people, etc., could never reach them because they're elitists. Now after the no confidence motion, they love everybody again. They love everyone again. Look what they've done to young people. Young people have been excluded absolutely. You saw tonight here, we have all of these are young candidates of the PPP. We have 50-something of them. Young people, bright young people who are coming to us, and we have a history of inclusion of young people along with the older folks. When I was president, over 60% of the cabinet were in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. The same thing in the parliament. Now they look at the leadership of the PPP. We have brought in a ton of young people right up to the top leadership because that is what our party is about. We have to build a party for 100 years into the future. And this is the inclusion of young people in a real meaningful way. Now they suddenly need young people again. They've gone back about, Granger, they got about 10 older people, and I'm not saying older, some can't even move. And they're saying, look at this young man we have who is 62 years old on the platform. I saw one of this, it was so ridiculous. So comrades, if the history, the 4 people say also, the PPP had 23 years, and that's what they're saying. We only had 5. Well, it's actually 8. But let me tell you, if you already see the signs, a man come in, a house that you were fixing up, in spite of their problems, you fix up your house nicely, and the first year he break off your step, and the next year he break down your window, and next day he break off a door. You're waiting for he break off the roof? We can't wait for he break off the roof of the whole house. That's why we got to get rid of them now, because the signs are clear. They can't manage a country like ours. They have no clue, based on their economic philosophy, no clue about where to take this country. They have no vision. They can't outline a plan. Granger is vague. He talks about a decade of development, green state strategy, solar state strategy, water state strategy, and he can't tell the kids of Guyana when he is going to return their grant to them. Can't anything. Talk about anything. The guy says, I want all of you to own your own home. And that was when they campaigned in 2015. And guess what happened? They got into office, they have not developed a single new housing scheme. And at Ferguson land with our big house, they used to talk about Jagdeo big house. Well, and at Ferguson, I can account for my money. And so she could. But it's on a land that the PPP developed, Irfan Ali developed that. And she's so shameful cussing the man around the place. Oh God. Shameless. But they didn't develop no new housing. And then, guess what he also did? His Minister of Finance put the VAT on sand, stone, cement, and other building materials. So this is what Granger says, all of you will own your own home, but no new house lots, excepting for cronies. and taxes on the things that you use to build it. In the meantime, they've given out about 60,000 acres, 60,000 acres to cronies of theirs. One man at MMA already got 10,000 acres. That could develop 50,000 house lots alone for what they give to one man at the MMA scheme. People like Eric Phillips and all the others who were lying about how much land they give. We now have the evidence. We saw the maps at Lands and Survey. And trust me, a lot of the lands they've given out at Wales to their cronies and on the East Coast, we promise to take them back because a lot are corruptly done. So this is precisely what he did. He says, oh, I want more exports. I want more production. And then you put the taxes on machinery and equipment. Power is unreliable. And then you put a tax on exports. We're one of the few countries in the world that has a value-added tax on export that this government put on since it came into office. But he claimed that he wants to stimulate export. So there's no coordination in their brains. They state a goal, a statement of desire, we want to do this stuff, and then the policies to achieve it are never done, are never put in place, because they have no clue how to do it. We made it clear that in the power sector, we have to fix it definitively. They killed the hydropower when they had the majority in Parliament. By 2017, that hydropower would have been built. Our cost of power would have been cut by half. We would have added 2 percentage points to GDP, saved hundreds of millions of dollars in fuel importation. But they killed it. And now what we have? Spate of blackouts. They've made no major investment decision in a critical sector like this. And if they stay in power, then it will get worse, because they've added no new generating capacity in 5 years. And the peak demand is already close to the installed capacity. So as soon as we get into office, we made it clear we have to bring in emergency power to cut the blackout. We got to move to do 200 megawatts from the gas, bring the gas through a pipeline and do the power here. And we'll resume a miler, so that within 5 years we have 400 megawatts of power. Then we can supply cheap power to every single Guyanese and to business. That is what. We have a specific plan for these areas. Every single thing. You can ask me now about the sector, and I will tell you about our plans for the future. They're 5 years in government, had another 3, and they are busy saying they're working on things. Look at this guy talk about crime. Before they came into office, they paraded all of these people. They said that we have the expertise, a former commissioner of police, the Felix who was squatting in the parliament, the Court of Appeal just ruled he was squatting in the parliament all along. You saw the ruling yesterday, and he'd have big trouble. I think he got to pay back the whole salary, all them salary we get, because it's big issues there, he and Keith Scott. So they paraded all the Gary Bess and what's the other one named Collins and stuff. We are strong on crime. And what about their crime plan? Granger brought a man in from abroad. The man gave him something. He said, with this document, I'd end crime in Guyana. A couple days ago, on an interview, they asked him, what about crime? What about yours? He said, crime? Really? Do we have that? Is there something like that? He said, I do solutions. So they asked him, what is his solution? I don't do problems, I provide solution. His solution was, I appointed 4 new deputy commissioners who were unbribable, and 2 are now under investigation. That was his solution for the crime situation in Guyana. A totally hopeless president. And he has strong support from another hopeless. There's a Ramjatan. Ramjatan is a thing. he, the guys told me yesterday they went to hold a meeting by his village. He went there, he can't get nobody to come out from his village, right? So they had to apologize to his mother for criticizing him but he's a waste of time, another useless yes man. And look at the way they're treated in the AFC. Up just grinding their faces in the dust every single day. They can't even, Granger said, oh really? I'm not appointing no prime minister now. Granger then said, all right, you'll be the candidate. But they're not even including them to speak. Tonight they got a little rally or something like that they call at Golden Grove. And they're not even included to speak. The AFC has served its purpose. Their purpose was to come into communities like ours and lie to people, bring messages to the sugar workers and the rice farmers, and Nagas and the others carry that message to get people to vote for them. They've served their purpose. And you know why I say it's good for them? Because when Granger made the illegal appointment with Patterson, they were cheering him on. They said, oh, the president did a great thing. They went to local government elections, AFC, using Granger's illegal slogan, fit and proper. Using what Granger, that is like, scorn, heaping scorn on the Guyanese public, with so arrogantly, that was their slogan. Well, Granger giving them the fit and proper treatment now, Ramjatan and Sticky Finger and all of them. They're getting the proper treatment, the fit and proper treatment. So comrades, you know why we are voting. I'm just giving you a couple of things that you know about already. This region has great possibilities, enormous possibilities. We're not going to build a bridge that's twisted, like Patterson. Patterson twists the bridge to land it on Stanley Ming land and want to put it in the center of the city. We'll build a proper 4-lane high bridge so you can drive over all the time. You don't have to worry there. And so, the roads here, more people are going to live here. We have to expand the road network. We started with this, but we need another 2 lanes. Somewhere at the back maybe, another 2 lanes all the way to Parika. With the population of Region 3, we have to do that. When we moved the track here, they said we want to move it in our base. Now they're using the track all the time. We have to expand facilities for people in this region. We have over 120,000 people who live in this region. And they're very, very valuable to the People's Progressive Party, like people elsewhere. And you're going to make sure that this region has more jobs, because then you don't have weight restriction on trucks going across the bridge and all kinds of stuff. More people can bring their raw material over here, process them, and take it back across. Lots of these things. I can't go through all our regional plans or all the plans in our manifesto. Just read this, comrade. You would see the excerpts, how comprehensive it has been. In every sector, we have outlined the key things that we are going to do. We do have greater explanations, but even if you read this, you will learn a little bit more. I want to urge all of you to go online too. We need an army of people online. Stay away from racism. Stay away from, they will provoke people. They will provoke you into getting into all kinds of things. So look at this donkey Jaipal Sharma. Irfan was busy campaigning, and he's strong enough to campaign in Region 9. So I met with Mark Phillips and Gail and the others, the US Congressional Delegation. He started talking about Muslim and everything else. They're trying to divide our people. We are not divided here. And we reported him to the ERC, because this party is a party for every single one. He's our candidate. I have faith and trust in him and all of you to do so. He grew up in this party. His grandmother Walk with Chedi Jagan. It's one of our songs. And so this is what they'll try to do. You stay away from that. But every one of you go online. Ensure that our messages are carried out. Fight off the negativism. Fight off the racism. But don't get descend into the gutters with them. We don't need that. We have a track record. You can defend anything we've done with arguments. And we have plans for the future. Share those. If we do so, we'll get more people. Call your relatives abroad. If you have anybody who's gone abroad, come back on March 2nd and then they can go back if they're on the voters list. Make sure that they do that. You have to do this. You have, every single one of you. Because we got some people who only come to meeting and they gotta work. We gotta work. This is how we take this country forward. And that's why, that's the message I wanted to bring here tonight. The party has a long-standing faith in you, comrades. And your turnout here, this massive turnout, is an indication of how much you want our country to be managed properly, how much you want this useless cabal to change again. So, I'm not going to speak much longer. I'm going to talk to you at Shortville again. So I'll see you there. See you at Shortville. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for your support for the People's Progressive Party. And let's march to victory on March 2nd. Come on.